first of all, Jim, I want to thank you for coming on today and helping me build, a place here where, as a real estate media producer, I can ask you questions that maybe I see from a client's perspective, or maybe a client is I don't know, maybe thinking of before listing with somebody, those sort of things. And
when you're talking about a client, a seller, then
a seller, a buyer,
–
somebody who is looking to work with a realtor.
Right.
And so this podcast is really about bringing the realtors in the Des Moines metro area to the potential clients, and helping their social media, if they're on social media, helping their stuff, along with maybe answering some questions that they have.
Yeah.
Now you don't have a YouTube channel, right?
Matt has,
but you have been on camera before and are on YouTube in a couple videos.
Right, and it's just funny because that's something that I've never really aspired. Now, I watch YouTube all the time. I was watching this morning a replay of the worship service.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, and while I was doing a little exercising and stuff, because I just thought Joe had a great set of songs there. But we've had, several people. I just had a client that bought a home. We closed on it Monday for his daughter, who lives in Grimes with her now husband. They've been together 5 years, have 2 kids. Their kids are going to Mount Olive. This is a cool story.
Okay.
And their daughter at Mount Olive, who's 5 years old, is coming back talking about Jesus. And both have kind of walked away from faith. She went to a Catholic school in California because her parents didn't want to send her to public school. It's not because they were Catholic, not because they had faith. They just wanted something other than California public schools. And then he had come from a church. His claim to faith was, my dad was an elder at one time and stuff. And so, okay. But they, through their daughter now, and through our interaction here, her dad had reached out to buy a home for them rather than renting. And he saw the video that Matt had done, that I was just part of it and stuff. So he called, checked us out a little bit and called me. And so it works.
Nice.
Yeah.
So it sounds like maybe you should do more of this.
I would, but I'm kind of at a point right now at 68 that I'm just renewing my license for 3 more years. There's a good chance I might redo it further. And for me, the end game with Matt is I want to see him be successful. He'd be successful without me. I mean, he's that sharp. And he reminds me of where I was 40-some years ago, starting out. Hardest working newer agent and most disciplined working newer agent that I've probably encountered in my time, as far as a newer agent. And I'm fortunate to be partnered with him, and I think he'd say he's fortunate to be partnered with me, because what I'm trying to do is transfer 45 years of relationships over to somebody else, so that when they have needs, I can say I'm either available to work with you if I'm still active, or Matt can help you on this end of it here. And so, like with this house that we closed at for and her dad, I'd shown him different things, met different times with him, but the one house they bought, I was tied up, and Matt showed it to him.
Nice.
And so he wrote the offer, and I took over afterwards, and it's going to lead to another transaction because the dad wants to escape California once his mother-in-law passes on. They're giving care to her, and she's in her 90s. And so when she passes on, he's ready to get out of California too. But the cool part, is sort of from a spiritual thing, is I invited to the church, and they would come in second service now.
Nice.
And, I'm just wondering how that's impacted when they see baptisms last week.
Sure. And
just hearing that, and in fact, I talked with her walkthrough on Sunday, and she said this hospitality sermon that Jeremy just gave, she's going to apply for the cafeteria, because she's been in the hospitality arena, and she said that would be a great fit for her. It's just neat to see what God's doing in their life.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Just a couple, I guess, call it generic questions, and we'll see where it goes. Because you said you've been in the business now 46 years?
I'm in my 46th year. Yeah, I started in 1980. Yeah.
Well, it seems like you should go 4 more years.
Well, that's kind of funny you mention that, because that's something I'm thinking about now, just to say I've done it for 50 years.
Sure.
And again, the nice thing about this point of career is I can decide who I want to work with a little bit more and who I don't. And whereas before it was a necessary thing that even though you clashed with personalities or expectations, on their part were too high sometimes. You worked with them because I had a wife.
Yep.
And 3 kids, and we did private school at Des Moines Christian, and we did college expenses, for the kids, and so there was that need. But boy, once you get through all that stuff, yeah, you're going to find out what the needs are. But once you get through it, then it's nice because you got all this time, and we're just starting to get into the grandkids things now.
Yeah.
We've got 2, and I think more coming on the way soon. So
Okay. All right. What is something you believed about real estate that turned out to be wrong, opposite of what you thought, or that was confirmed, as you got into real estate?
I think just the whole social media stuff, because when I started, you basically were self-promotion, and I'd get testimonial letters, written testimonial letters, that when new prospects came into the fold, I would go ahead and print those off and share those with people. Here's what people said I've already done in my business. But what I found with social media things is I found agents who were not necessarily great realtors, and if I can say this, but they were great at social media and could blast themselves out there and get attention. They were doing as much or more business than I was, even though I felt they might not be as good of a realtor as me.
Sure.
And when I started, word of mouth was a big thing, and it still is nowadays. That's secondary to probably people just going online and seeing what you got. We just had a situation with a client yesterday. He's looking for an electrician, and he so happened to pick an electrician that I used earlier this year. And it's one of the first 3 or 4 that come up if you do Des Moines electricians. And my experience with them was not good, because they came out and I thought they overcharged, and I won't use them again probably. But yet all their reviews on there look good. And unless somebody doesn't like your service and is willing to go ahead and post a bad review out there, you're going to look like you're good when you may or may not be.
Sure.
As
yeah,
good
no,
as
absolutely.
So he hired them unbeknownst to me, and he had sort of the same experience. They want to charge $1,000, almost $1,000 for what he thinks he could do for himself for $200, but they want a licensed electrician to do it. So I said, we got to find a licensed electrician.
Yeah.
And stuff. So I think you can, I don't know if it's fooling people, but you can make yourself look better than you are, in experience and stuff. And people can find fault with the service that I, provide,
Sure.
Because I might sell a house and somebody doesn't tell me that I screwed up someplace and work with another realtor. And, but it's amazing how many times I've run into people that worked with somebody who was supposedly the superstar in the business, and they didn't get some of the attention. And part of when we talk here might be just about the whole team concept versus individualism, because I've got kind of a love-hate relationship with that, I guess.
Well, sure. I think that's one thing that's lost today is how easy it is to get your opinions out there, right? Whether they may be right or wrong, rather than going directly to the person and saying, hey, this is what happened, right? This is potentially where you screwed up.
Right.
I know I've felt that in my business.
Yeah.
Where when I got into the business, my prices were low and I was taking on volume, right? I was
did that
taking
intentionally
on
then.
everything that I could get my hands on,
But you did that intentionally to get some.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
To be competitive in the market.
Right.
And when I first started, I offered the first shoot for free, just, again, to build up portfolio,
Right.
let people know how I work, those sort of
Right.
things. And looking back on it, my images were good. They were composed great, right? They were showing what they should show, but like the quality of the color, the quality of the light, the quality of what put the photo together could have been a lot better. And I didn't know that at the time, but I do now because of, how I've continued to teach myself, right?
So you've kind of self-taught rather than having
Absolutely.
a degree in photography
Yep.
or anything. Okay.
Yep, absolutely.
What were you in before that then?
Oh gosh, I've done a lot of different things.
So you're the opposite of me.
Yeah, I've been in personal finance, which ended up not working because I was still young in my career when COVID hit, and we all went,
Can't have me
underground, and
Yeah.
people didn't want to talk about money.
Right.
I've sold cars. I've sold Mack trucks. I have, I've run convenience stores, so I've sold pool tables.
Yeah.
I've always been
Selling yourself.
selling myself and working with the general public in some way, shape, or form, which I think translated really well to this, right? Being able to market myself, those sort of things.
What made you choose photography and video and?
So during COVID, my kids were at home doing their online things on their iPads, right?
Yeah.
And I was in personal finance at that time, and there was no money coming in from that for me because of just where I was at in my career doing that. So my wife had the salary job, the insurance, all those sort of things, and we needed somebody to watch our kids so that they weren't on YouTube when they were supposed to be listening to their classes.
Right.
So I was downstairs on my computer, had their iPads hooked up to my computer so I could see what was on their screen and monitor them. And
wow,
scrolling Facebook.
Yeah.
And there was this kid down in Dallas that was teaching real estate photography. You know, you bought the course in a box online, and he taught you, okay, here are the angles, here's the camera height, here's how you take the exposures, those sort of things. And I already had the camera, I had the tripod, I had to buy a lens, and I had to start reaching out to people because I had the software.
20-some-year-old kid teaching you, of course.
Yeah, but had built $1 million business down in the Dallas area.
Yeah.
And so I took the course and I started reaching out almost immediately. And I had my first shoot. See, I started in November 2020. I had my first shoot in December, and then January 2021 hit, and the market went crazy.
Right.
You know, there were some times I was doing 7 to 10 shoots in a day.
Wow.
But
did they even get on site then? Is what my question was, because that market, things were being listed in the morning and
it was so
gone. I mean, yeah.
Yep. There were definitely.
Or unless they shot them ahead of time and you had them posted that morning, that worked,
Yeah, so, I mean, I've always delivered my photos same day.
Yeah.
And so realtors were able to get me there before they wanted to go live with the listing, get the photos that evening, and get that listing live the next day.
Yeah.
So that was great. I was doing, 30, 40 shoots in a week. And so then I added drone, I added video, I added like 360 tours, like the Matterport click-through tours. And then I discovered a new way to do photos. And it's a little more time consuming on site, but the end product is, it's just so much better than where I started. But because of that, because of the time, I've changed my product, I've increased my prices, and I've lost some realtors in the process.
Right.
And it's a business decision.
Right.
I understand that, right?
Fine line.
But I've been surprised at the number of people that won't pick up the phone when I call them. And I want honest feedback. Like, was it something I said? Was it something I did? Was it merely a financial decision?
Right.
And it surprised me how many people won't even answer the phone. There was a guy that, there was a realtor that we were going to go into business together and form a team around the media that I could produce, right? Photo, video, drone, essentially going all out on every single listing. It didn't matter if it was a $150,000 house or a $1.5 million house.
Kind of what I really does with our partner, yeah.
Yeah. But conversations kind of slowed down. We had a business name picked out. I still have an Instagram page with that name on it. I don't use it, but eventually couldn't get a hold of him. Left a message, hey, I just want some feedback.
And he wouldn't return call.
Won't even return my call.
Wow. It's, I mean, that's something that's a frustration thing for us. Because I always want to get feedback.
Yep.
And I'll send out when an agent's showing a listing of mine, I'll send an email with pictures, the seller disclosure form. It's kind of a pre-showing email.
Sure.
And I put in there, give me your feedback, good or bad, whatever, afterwards, put some questions in there. And they get this beforehand. My goal is hopefully they'll share it with their buyer because it highlights some of the things at home and makes the buyer look for things. A lot of agents won't get a hold of me right away, so I'll send an email within 12 hours right after that. Hey, I know you're busy. Could you just reply back to the questions? And I still have to follow up with other people. And it's rare now that somebody doesn't, but I'll follow up 2 or 3 times at least, and it might be minimal. And then once in a while, somebody surprises you and really gives you good feedback and stuff. But that's a thing of this. I don't know if it's a generational thing, more so because I think a lot of younger people are the ones that tick me off when they don't get a hold of you and stuff. But was the partnership thing, was that recent then in the last year or so? Or? And the reason I'm asking is from a financial side, I can understand because this has been a funky market.
Yeah, no, this was a couple years ago now.
Okay. But it was after the 21-22 market.
It was still, I think it was 2023.
Yeah, but rates had gone already from 3 to 4% up, and
maybe.
Yeah, because that was February of 22 when I think that hit, and we've been in this.
It's been interesting.
And challenging.
It's been very challenging. It's fun to talk to realtors that have been around for a long time, and because they know the hustle of what it used to be.
Right.
Whereas realtors that have come into it in the last, 10 years?
Longer than that, I think. I mean,
where it's been fairly easy.
Right.
To list and sell a house. I'm sure that the internet has helped with that. And
that's like I said, we're social media. You get some people come in and they sell a house, so they post everything on there. They get a listing, they post that, they post their open houses. Where Matt will do more of those type of things because he's better at it, he's grown up with it, that type of thing. And I'm more the type of thing, I need to really take care of my base because most of the people I've worked with this years are 40s and 50s and 60s. I'm working with their kids and maybe their grandkids in certain cases. And that was always a word of mouth. You basically took care of those people, and if you kept farming them and turning them over, you get referral basis. And it's less about getting. We still get stuff from social media, like the evidence of that California buyer and stuff. But yeah, I think when you're talking about the hustle, I question sometimes how many people have that desire, because these teams, they basically put you into a little spot here, and they say, whether it's his team or whatever. And I've talked to one of the guys on his team. He's married to a gal who we knew through Des Moines Christian and stuff. I said, well, after 3 years, he came and said, just wanted my opinion. And I said, why do you work for somebody else? Because on every one of your sales, don't you pay him something? Yeah. And when he refers something to you as a lead, don't you pay him something? Yeah. I go, does that ever get tiring for you? Do you enjoy that? And I think there are some people that do, because they aren't, type A hustlers out there like a Matt would be, or like I would probably be. But I grew up all the time. If you didn't get out and hustle, you didn't have business. I mean, that's why you're doing what you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely.
And stuff. And I think a lot of these people are either content with working for somebody else or don't have the drive. And I wonder in a market like now how some of those teams are doing. I don't know how many people are getting new licenses this year versus, turning licenses back in, because it's a challenging year. Yeah.
I guess when you and Matt are looking to list a home, what are some non-negotiables?
Well, probably we need to have a motivated seller. Okay. Need to find people that are willing to take suggestions, that are teachable, because we have some sellers who are still today living in the world of 20 and 21, the COVID year.
Oh my gosh, yes.
And that's part of the reason they saw their neighbors or their friends sold houses, and there were 3 offers on it within the first 24 hours, and it sold for $10,000 over asking price, and they still think that we're operating there. with the big difference being interest rates then were under 3 or 4%, and now today they're closer to 6.5% or so, and it's a different market. There's less number of buyers. So we're seeing homes stay on the market a lot longer. We're seeing homes with a lot more reductions, going on. There's more inventory building up, which is good for buyers because it gives them a little bit more foothold at the negotiation table with more things out there to choose from. If one seller isn't willing to deal with them or work with them, they could go ahead and find another home. Whereas in 2021, you didn't have that luxury.
Yeah.
You were at the mercy of the seller and how many other buyers were trying to buy the same home.
You took what you could get.
Yeah, and you were happy if you paid $3,000 or $5,000. I shouldn't say happy, but you were just happy to get a house bought.
Yeah.
And most of those buyers that paid that much over, oftentimes before that lost a home by maybe making just a full price offer or $1,000 over, and they gradually learned through experience that this is a different market. But yeah, I've had some sellers or buyers recently, get some pretty good deals on transactions.
Nice.
But yeah, from the seller standpoint, if a seller is unrealistic and not willing to listen, and they're not willing to look at facts, and it's all emotional, I think successful agents, whether they're Matt or myself, you just have to decide what's your time worth. Okay. And I remember an early training instructor talk about what's time to a pig. And I think that's something, you're in your own business, I'm in my own business, you have to decide who you want to work with, where you're going to invest your time, where the best chances of having a successful outcome for your client and you are. And we have to discriminate sometimes on where we're going to do that. And I've told different sellers I can't do that, and I won't go there on that end with there. And I think in certain cases, it's been kind of a saving grace from God to save me disappointment or wasted time and things like that too.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I think we need more of that in the market. I think there are a lot. Unfortunately, I think there's a lot of yes men, yes women out there, right? Where the realtor is presenting facts, right? And giving their best feedback on, hey, to get you the best end result, this is the strategy I think that is going to work best with you, along with my marketing and that sort of stuff, right? And the sellers are more emotionally attached to the home, right?
Yeah.
Than a buyer coming in is going to be.
Right.
And, unfortunately, emotions don't price something.
Yeah, market
Right.
values what a buyer's willing to pay and a seller's willing to accept. But as you're saying, I think of two listings that I didn't get recently. I lost them to other agents, and one, they went with this agent because she had grown up in West Des Moines when I didn't. It was a West Des Moines home, and they listed it for about $25,000 to $30,000 higher than I was recommending.
Oh, wow.
It sat on the market for the better part of a month and a half to 2 months. It sold. I think it closed here recently. But did they really need or want to go through that? Now, it was their mom's home that she had owned for close to 50 years. Or
So they'd grown up in the house.
Yes,
Ish.
partly. So
Ish.
they had, and they were emotional about it, and they were trying to help mom get as much out of it as she could. And another one that I had here recently, it was in Windsor Heights, and their mom had passed away. It was their longtime home. It wasn't a situation that the mother was going to benefit from the sale, but the two siblings, who were making decisions on it, just either had too much emotion or too much pride in it, and I've been just kind of monitoring it, and it's been sitting there for the better part of 60 days, and no change on price, and I'm thinking, again, how motivated is this seller? They've got daily costs, or there's no mortgage, but they still have daily costs going out for utilities or insurance or somebody snow plowing or mowing the lawn.
Yeah.
And, as well as I do, the longer a house sits on the market, buyers out there will start smelling blood on it. And you're just inviting a low ball offer.
Yeah.
And I guess that's one way to market a property, but that's not the best way, I don't think. So.
Yeah, it's interesting, the different strategies that of all the clients that I work with. Some believe it's best to go live on Monday, some of them Friday, some of them Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, some of them it's Friday morning, some of them it's Thursday night. It's interesting for me to hear all of those different things, because when I'm there and they're there and I'm talking to them, I'm asking them questions as I'm walking around and doing my thing, and it's always kind of playing in my brain, okay, how can I help this realtor not only list this house, but sell the house, get more exposure, those sort of things, because I'm not the kind of guy that's going to walk in and take the photos, leave, deliver the photos, and that's
right.
it. If there is a spot in a realtor's business where I think they can grow, where they can get more exposure, they can get more business, I'm going to bring it up to them.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to challenge them with it. And I think that's one of the reasons why I've lost some of my clients.
Mm-hmm.
You know, people that would be anxious about doing this because there's 3 cameras in this room.
Right.
And, you know, being like, hey, you really need to look at video. You need to, you know, if you're not going to say anything in the video, you need to at least be in the video. Okay, now you've been in the video, can you just introduce the property? Welcome to,
right.
You know, what's the phrase? 1, 2, 3, 4 Banana Street.
Yeah.
Right? Pushing them to take the next step, to get out of their comfort zone.
Right.
And I don't know if there are other people in my situation that are doing that.
Yeah.
Right? As a photographer employee, right? They're just going in, I would assume, taking the photos, doing the video, doing the things that are on their checklist.
Right.
Whereas a business owner, yeah, I'm looking at my bottom line, but if I help you get more listings, that helps my bottom line
Right.
too.
Right.
Right? So if I challenge and they stick with it, right? They should see some growth. They should see, you know, going from a $200,000 house to a $400,000 house. Right, where they're making more money, maybe they can invest a little bit more in the media. Then that $400,000 house turns into a $750,000 house because of the effort that they're putting in on the lower ones. You know, what's their effort going to be on the higher end ones?
I think one of the things that I've seen in my career is that very few agents have a marketing budget or are willing to spend money investing in themselves, whether it be videography, you know, photos, whether it's training, you know, because I think so much nowadays is given by the broker to them. I mean, we have different training sessions, and a lot of it is free. Remaxes, the Keller Ribbons, everybody has all these things free, so you don't have to spend money there. Where when I got a CRS degree or a GRI, I had to take out-of-pocket money as an independent contractor to go ahead and invest in myself. And Matt just went to a 3 or 4 day thing out in Colorado, you know, with a trainer out there and stuff. Cost him a flight, you know, training, things like that, but opened his eyes in a lot of ways and stuff. And so I think that's the hardest part, you know, to start with getting people open to even considering that. And I know with our photographer who our company uses, I mean, they're kind of in and out and shoot the photo. They do a good job, but they're not always the most interactive, and they certainly don't offer me suggestions on how I might improve my business, which I think is good. And if you can differentiate yourself on that end of it there, and if people do use you and hang in there with you for a couple of times and showing results, I think that's where you get it. You know, so I just see, I mean, how many agents nowadays still shoot their own photos with their phone, and it drives me nuts. And I'm surprised that sellers accept that.
Yeah.
But if they're only charging a below market thing to get it on the MLS, if that's the whole point of some of those brokers, we'll put you on the MLS, your house will sell. Doesn't matter what the photos look like. Doesn't matter the quality of the photos or anything like that. And I would argue with that.
Absolutely.
Right.
And that's funny that you say that, because it drives me. I mean, there's so many things as a photographer that I see in the photos, right, that are out there.
Right.
the different techniques that you can use to capture a space, whether it's using flash, whether it's using different exposures, which to the average person means absolutely nothing. But I see it, I can critique it, and I've even put up like comparison photos, right? And chatted with an agent that I want to work with, and they came back with like, I've seen your comparisons, but I really don't see a difference.
Yeah.
And to me, that difference is night and day.
Right.
Right? There's the colors the way it's supposed to be.
Right.
It's not color shifted because the lights that are in the ceiling are the light that's coming in the window.
So maybe it's an education
Well,
thing that we have to be educated
exactly.
and stuff. But I mean, and I get some of that because when the market was what it was in COVID years 2021, it didn't matter as much what you had for photography on there because homes were selling so fast. But after the rates went up and the markets changed, it's been 2-3 years. And it's always amazes me at how many agents, to save some money, will just take their phone out and shoot a few photos. And again, it's with homes staying on the market longer with more competition, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense unless it's a seller who's only given like a budget on that end.
Sure. See, and I guess I'm not completely in agreement with you there, because your ROI was really fast on those homes,
Mhm.
right? If you were spending money, you were getting your return back on that, right? And if you look at a realtor's entire portfolio, right, is there consistency from here to here,
Mm-hmm.
right? Where they were hiring a photographer, then they didn't need to hire a photographer, and now they're hiring a photographer again. What does that say? But are sellers even thinking that way? Like that's where my brain goes.
Right.
But I look at that 2 years and all the people that were taking their own photos and not doing it in a professional manner, because I could take really good photos of somebody's house with my phone,
Right.
but I know the composition, I know how to make them look good. Are they going to look as good as using my professional cameras? No, but they're going to be better than the realtor taking their own photos,
Yeah.
right? And so I look at that time period and I go back and I'm like, you could have spent $100, $200, whatever on marketing, gotten an immediate return on that, and now you're building your portfolio for the future.
Right.
Versus, well, I'm going to save that $150, $200 on this $3 to $5 to whatever $1,000 commission. And now, if we go back and we look at all the houses that I've sold on one of the real estate sites, right? Because you can see whether they work with the buyer or the seller,
Yeah.
right? You look at all the seller ones. If people do that, I don't know. I do it because I'm a media producer,
Right.
right? And I'm looking at kind of that history. Are they paying attention? Like, well, these photos aren't that good.
Right. And I don't
So-
know. I think a lot of agents, realtors themselves, don't look at a career. They don't look at building up a portfolio, which might be different for your, but they look at it as one transaction at a time. And sometimes it's a transactional thing just because they need to make money and make a living. But, you look at how few of them follow up with people afterwards. And that's one of the things I learned from early training is those are your referrals. Those are your people that are going to recommend you to family and friends, things like that. And yet statistics have continually shown over my career that I think it's less than a third of agents maintain a relationship of any sorts. Now,
That's crazy.
it is crazy. It's ridiculous. But again, that goes back to the point that I think a lot of agents don't invest time or money. It's a transactional thing. Thank you. We took care of it, and don't think about it down the road. Now, social media, if you're good at it, again, you can get your name out there. You can show all the splash and stuff like that. And you could be a average or subpar agent and look great again in social media if you do things right. So
Sure.
I think you talked about learning stuff, and Yeah, after so many things, I'm kind of to that point where I still want to learn some things, but I don't want to learn as much as I used to, because I think sometimes I just get set in my ways, and I see what brought me success, and I get a little bit locked in on it. But that's one of the great things about working with Matt, in his 20s, is he's challenging me to look at things differently and to market our services and our team in different ways, and that's part of the excitement that I love being involved with on. So, like I said, it's just kind of a fun time, and because I don't have to rely on every transaction like I used to have to rely on. Doesn't mean I'm less involved with seeking the best interests of my clients and things like that. But I will be honest with people. I will tell people I don't have to be a yes person to get a listing, to get it on the market, because my time's worth something, their time's worth something. I don't want to go through the disappointment of being on the market for 6 to 8 weeks and find out what is the problem. And I've got one listed right now for some past clients. They've worked with me different times and gave some suggestions. We've worked together on that, but it's just a funky market in December with record low temperatures that we're expecting today. And it's more of a market prior to 2020, when once you get into Thanksgiving and Christmas and stuff, if you didn't have your house sold by that time, it might be mid-January, February before people start looking at it, because they're preoccupied with Thanksgiving, Christmas, holidays, New Year's, all those type of things. So, and that's it's usually been in my career. So
no, it's I've definitely seen a difference in the number of shoots that I have per day, per week.
Yeah.
And I've reached out to other real estate media producers, and they have certainly seen a drop off as well.
Well, like with this couple, we're talking about either we made a reduction last week, and we're talking about maybe another small one, but if it doesn't happen, we might just take it off the market. There's almost a record number of people taking their homes off the market to enjoy the holidays and have that privacy and not strangers coming in. But I think they're going to, if they still have a need to sell, they're going to put the houses back on the market January, February, March, or whatever there. But well, again, we're so driven by interest rates and also by school years. If you've got a home that appeals to a family with kids and they are operating around school year, they're going to start looking February, March, or April, wanting to sell their house or close on another home by April, March, May, or June, and so that they're in before the school year starts.
Sure. In your almost 50 years of being in real estate, what's the craziest thing you've seen at a showing?
I remember one house I showed, it was a vacant house, and you had to actually enter through a window because the door wasn't working or so. And I stepped in, and all of a sudden I felt it was full of fleas.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
That's gross.
I walked into hoarding, people that were hoarders, and that was, you're just going through rows and stacks of whatever they were keeping in the house and stuff. So those would probably be some of the, unique situations on that, but.
Right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
What advice would you give to a new realtor entering the market today?
If you're gonna, I think everybody tries it, and that will only take you so far in a difficult market. Mm-hmm. I think you've got to be committed. Obviously, you've got to be a hard worker. You've got to be more than, I like houses, I like working with people, because you got to make a living at the job. And this market today it's a tough, difficult market. I still marvel at people that get into it, knowing how difficult it's been for even experienced people like myself to operate in. But then I started in the market in 1980 when rates were 13%, and going up to 17 to 18, and any older veterans will remember that kind of market because there just weren't any buyers in the marketplace. And I almost quit after 2 years. And luckily I had a good manager that invested some time with me, got me refocused. And tell people the only way I've succeeded is because I'm a hard worker. Mm-hmm. And that has been a lot of my success, is I'm willing to outwork people. And I don't know that today's newer agents are willing to work like an old dog like me.
I get it.
They may not be used to working, 50 hours or 60 hours or 70 hours. And I think you'd be hard pressed to find a successful agent in our local market or even national market who doesn't oftentimes work in it, whether it's in the office at home, whether it's in the office, at a office site, whether it's thinking about the business, thinking about clients, lining up showings or whatever, mentally you're kind of tuned in. So I think there's a lot of people that don't want to put that time commitment, but they want to get into real estate, and that's why they join teams. Is if they don't want to work more than 40 hours a week, But I even question sometimes how many people work 40 hours a week in this business because they're attracted to, well, he or she drives a nice car, or he or she has their own schedule and can do that, or I can do it part time. And I've always questioned, can you do this thing part time?
And I don't know that you can.
Well, if you're serving your client's interests at heart rather than your own interests and things, particularly in that 2021 market. I mean, if you were doing this part-time and doing a job till 3:30 or 4:30, and a client wanted to look at a home after that, that home oftentimes was gone.
It was gone, yeah.
Or all you were doing is you're going to show it, and then you're going to be one of 3 to 5 offers on it. And was that really the best thing serving your client? Certain cases, probably yes or no. So, yeah, I'm a little jaded in that, and that I think a lot of people that get in the business, and I see that in my own kids, they want to have more social time, more family time. They don't want to work like what dad worked like.
Sure.
And I get that, and I think I work probably to a fault at times. Again, if you talk to my wife, Lori, I probably did, and that's, I can't go back and turn back the clock on that, but it's led to me having a successful career and led to us having a great family, and, that's what everybody wants, just to have, relationships, a good family, and good children and everything else. So that's probably the best thing, is you just got to be willing to have a heart-to-heart talk with yourself. How hard are you willing to work, particularly in a difficult market? Because if you can work in a difficult market and develop good work habits, whether it's in your business or my business, when the market turns and becomes good again, okay, you're going to be set. And as long as you've got good work habits and good relationship with working with people and stuff, the career is a fantastic career.
Excellent. Oh gosh, I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I have for you.
You make this very casual, so.
Well, thank you.
Good, yeah.
Thank you. My goal, I think, like I told you at church, is to kind of build the or even here, was to build a way to have a conversation with local realtors so that people can get to know those realtors, right? Maybe get some questions answered that, I don't know if they're scared to or not, but that maybe they didn't think of. Right? If you only take one person's opinion, one person's knowledge, you're limiting yourself to what you know and what you understand.